Okay, I think we are recording.
Yeah.
I want to say hello to Eleanor.
Hi.
We got there eventually. We've been coming backwards and forwards through normal Hangouts, but we eventually found each other on Hangouts on air. This is the first one that I've actually managed to get a guest to join us via Hangouts on air. This was the whole point of trying to do it on air, so that because we're in such a large region geographically, it saves people like Eleanor driving all the way to the office. We can just do it through the internet. There is a caveat to that though, is your internet fast enough to actually use Google Hangouts? But anyway, but she's here, yay! So basically what I wanted you to do, Eleanor, this morning was to tell us about your fascinating business, because you're not exactly your 9-to-5 kind of corporate gal anymore, are you?
No. Actually, I never have been really. But and the main thing that I have been doing in my business is conducting wedding ceremonies, because I'm registered through the Pagan Federation Scotland to conduct legal wedding ceremonies for other sex and same-sex couples, and that's been the main core of what I've been doing for the past few years. However, things are kind of, you know how they sometimes do with your business, where everything goes woof and kind of hasn't quite landed back down again yet. So I'm still registered to do weddings, but there's also all sorts of things coming in around art and storytelling and singing and getting people together for in community around those things. So I don't know what's going to happen with that yet, but it's quite exciting. So
so this is another, because you've got several strings to your business, your work, shall we say, because you've kind of got 3 or 4 businesses, haven't you? I know that you're a high priestess.
I'm a priestess. I'm not a high priestess.
Oh, sorry.
No. I'm a priestess in reclaiming and fairy traditions of neo-pagan witchcraft, and that's the heading under which I conduct my conduct legal weddings through the Pagan Federation. I'm also an interfaith minister, so I can also do spiritual counselling, and I do marriage preparation. And one of the key things that have been really core for me is that when I conduct a wedding with people, I don't just turn up with a ceremony and it's over. I only work with couples who are prepared to sit down and talk and think and feel quite deeply into what marriage is about for them, why they want to get married now, and who actually want to shape their relationship and their future together in a very conscious way. So that's because for me, the
counselling role that you take on then.
Yeah, and it's kind of partly relationship coaching and marriage coaching, and part of it can be counselling depending on the couple and their relationship. But it's really about because we have this narrative in our culture that you meet somebody, you fall in love, you get married, everything's happily ever after. And anybody who's ever been in a long-term relationship knows that that's not how it works.
I've always said to my kids that it should be harder to get married than it is to get divorced. Society has got that the wrong way around somehow. And you should have to renew marriage every 5 years. You know, do we still want to be in this situation, or just to have that? Look, this is serious. You can't go off in a fairy tale. So is that one of those things that you kind of tackle, that perception?
Yeah. Well, I guess what happens if people want to hold on to that perception, they work out quite quickly that I'm not the right person to marry them, and they go away and find somebody else. Is basically what happens. So that the people, and actually I've only ever married one couple who I think managed to hold on to their illusions about what marriage was going to be throughout the whole of the process with me, and they got divorced 7 months later.
Proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, pudding's definitely in the eating. Yeah, but it's, you know, I mean, I ask couples a lot of questions, and it's quite hard to find a way to market that to people, and even harder to find a way to sell that to people, because it's not something that boils down into an easy, you know, it's not, hey, you love each other, I marry you, awesome. It you know, it's a lot harder to find the language. So the pages on my webpage, they're really long because I'm trying to. It's very hard to convey succinctly what it is that it's all about and what I'm actually providing people with. Because for me, marriage is an act of ritual magic that creates the marriage as something in addition to the two individuals, even something in addition to them as a couple.
Right. So do you view it as like there's this additional bond that is created through that act?
It's not something bond.
It's a life of its own.
Yeah, it's a container. The image metaphor I use is like a ship, and it can be a little coracle or it can be an enormous ocean liner. But the marriage for me is the ship that then the couple can navigate together where they want to go and through their life. And they need to maintain the ship. They need to maintain themselves. They need to maintain their relationship with each other, but they also need to maintain the ship.
That's interesting that you said that they need to maintain themselves, because some people kind of lose their own identity when they go down that route and mistakenly think that their needs are subservient to either the marriage or the other person's, and that can lead to real trouble, can't it, really?
I mean, that is a particular, I mean, men face that as well, but particularly for women, there's a whole idea that you need to be there to serve your children, to serve your husband, to serve everybody else. But actually, in my view, you can't have a strong marriage if you're not both strong, and if you're not both standing strong in who you are. Because my ideal is to create wedding ceremonies, to create marriages between strong people, because and there's a difference between making a sacrifice from that inner strength and feeling like you have to put yourself last. You know, when you feel strong in yourself and you're consciously choosing, okay, this is what I want, this is what my partner wants, and actually this other thing is what's best for our marriage and our relationship and our future together. There is actually an increased strength in making that sacrifice of what you individually want for the sake of what you can create together. But that's not the same as being a doormat. And forgetting that you have needs and forgetting that you have wants.
Yeah,
and I think that's really for me.
That was one of the lessons I didn't really start to learn until I was going through a divorce, because at that point I was so run down as a person. You know, I felt none of my needs were being met. But while I was in that situation, I felt that was okay, because everything had to go on keeping the relationship together and looking after the kids. So I took a back burner for years. And that was partly a conscious decision that, you know, it's okay, this is what I should be doing. And it wasn't until, sort of during the divorce that I kind of started to learn that unless I am looking after me, there's no way I can be a good mother, you know, or a good person, actually. So, yeah, I learned that very late in life.
Well, it's a hard lesson, and I think some people never learn it at all. And some people are quite happy with that. They're actually quite invested in an identity of you know, being a good wife, being a good mother, or being a good husband and a good father, and that means for them putting themselves last, and actually their identity as that good wife and mother or good husband and father is more important to them than meeting their own needs and wants. It's almost like that is a greater need for them than the individual needs and wants. But for most people now, I think, and I think that was the case quite a long time ago. Pretty much everybody just didn't think about their individual needs and wants. It was about the household. Whereas now, because we're much more individuals and we have that space to be ourselves and to know ourselves, it is more important, I think, that not only do we make a conscious choice if we're going to make a sacrifice, but that we actually review that regularly. You know, is this still serving the relationship, me, the marriage, the children? And also, it's really important to distinguish between needs and wants, because sacrificing what you want for a long period can work out okay. But if you're not getting your needs met, that's never going to work.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. So, in it, bringing it back to sort of like the business side of things, how does that whole process work? So you've been potentially contacted by a couple, or someone's referred you or something. You know, how long does that whole process tend to take, and in what environment do you get the people to open up to you? And
yeah, it varies. I mean, if people just want a wedding ceremony, then they will normally contact me anything from 6 months to 2 years in advance, depending on how well organised they are. And I will, and I'll contact them and lay out, this is how I work, this is what my fee is, this is how many meetings we'll have. And then we'll have a first meeting where and that's usually by Skype, just so we can get a feel for each other before they make a decision and I make a decision about whether we're going to be a good fit to work together. And then when we've all decided mutually that yes, we want to do this, then they send me a deposit, and I have another meeting with them to work through a whole, I think it's about 20, 30 questions, just to get really into the depths of what their relationship is about, what they want their marriage to be about, so that I can then shape the ceremony to actually set that up, so that when the marriage itself is created through the wedding ceremony, that things are built into it that they want and things are kept out of it that they don't want.
So the sermon then is built on all of that discussion.
Yeah,
it's a personal thing then, doesn't it?
Yeah, every ceremony is. I mean, there are obviously there are key elements, like I need to welcome all the guests and let them know that they're at the right wedding, and that kind of stuff. And if it's a legal wedding, there needs to be a statement of being husband and wife, or husband and husband, or wife and wife, or I think spouse and spouse is now allowed as well. And then I make a declaration, and then they sign the marriage schedule. That's the legal bit. But everything else is kind of up for discussion and decision. So most people want to exchange rings. Most people who I marry want to have a hand fasting, which is where the couple join hands and I tie a ribbon or a cord around their hands while saying a prayer or a spell. And most people want some kind of readings or music, or just something to set the scene and that encapsulates their intent for their wedding and their marriage. But really, a lot of it comes out of that conversation. So, I mean, I do offer a purely locally I stay in Estelmuir, and there's the hand fasting Hoch, which is a field out on the Bailey Hill Road to Langham, which was used for hand fastings at the Lammas Fair at least until the 18th century. And I've actually read some accounts that say people were still doing it up until the 1920s, which at that time was a hand fasting was basically a year and a day's engagement. And if you had children within where you lived together, and if you had children within that time, they were considered legitimate, but you didn't have to have a permanent marriage at the end of it. You got to decide at the end of a year and a day if you wanted a permanent marriage or not.
What a brilliant idea. I think that's fantastic. Why did we get rid of this in our community? I mean, I never knew that existed. For a year and a day, you got to try out being married.
Yeah.
I love that. That is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And actually,
when did it become a sin to actually live together as a married couple, when that was part of our kind of traditional heritage?
Actually, I did used to know all the history of marriage in Britain, and I've forgotten most of it now, but a lot of it was down to property laws and the fact that the reason people got married in church wasn't because it was a religious matter, it was because the church was part of the state.
So it was a legal record as much as anything.
Record. Yeah.
Okay.
Because marriage, in the legal sense, the reason it happened in church was so that it could be registered. So and obviously it's bound up with the religion as well, but it's the people had marriages within their community. You know, they'd jump the fire, or they'd jump the broomstick, or they'd just move in together. And if they didn't have any property, nobody cared. It's only when people had property that you needed a legal record.
Brilliant. I never knew this. This is brilliant. I love that. I love the idea of that. We should bring this back. You know, a legalised practice. Well, it was a bit like when I said, 5 years, that's it. And then you have to decide whether you like it or you don't, And
Islamic is really interesting in this, because in certain Eastern Mediterranean Muslim cultures, this probably isn't the case now, but it certainly was under the Caliphates and the Ottomans, I think. You can actually draw up a marriage contract for any length of time. So if you've got the hots with someone, you can have a marriage contract drawn up for 24 hours, which legitimises any offspring. And you probably can't do that anymore, but I think it's a brilliant idea.
Well, it kind of sets up the expectations of, look, I really like you, but we know this is not going to last more than 3 weeks. It's kind of. Oh no! I love that.
Any children that come of it, if it's a man and a woman, any children that come of it are going to be looked after. That's basically what it was for. So,
I just think that's so sensible. Why are we not using this system here? So you. This is highly not only entertaining but educational. I did not know half of this stuff. So you have, what other strings to your bow do you have at the moment? So you do the whole wedding plus the relationship counselling thing.
Yeah, the marriage preparation, that can be a thing by itself. Like, I can spend a whole day with a couple, actually just really going into depth about their relationship and what they want their marriage to be, and so that, and I can even spend it over 2 days. It's kind of how long is a piece of string. Normally I'll do it in an hour and a half. But
I would love to do that. I would love to spend a day with you going through mine and my husband's relationship. We've actually got our 10th wedding anniversary tomorrow. Yeah. And I would love to do something like that with you, but I know he would just run a mile. He would just, nope, because the term he uses is scuba diving, and he would just go, nope. Do you ever find that some couples, one half is really up for it and the other one, they're just going, there's just no way I'm getting into this?
Yeah. And in those cases, if they're coming for a wedding, I would not suggest anything more than the hour and a half talking over the questions, because I can usually get something out of the reluctant party. I can usually build enough trust in that between them contacting me and actually having that meeting where it's really chunky. I can usually get them to relax enough to actually answer some questions, and it can be for all sorts of different reasons. It's usually a man who's reluctant, and you know, I just have to respect that. I mean, I would only want to do an in-depth thing with a couple where they were both up for it. You know, usually one's more enthusiastic than the other.
Yeah,
but you know, it's really important that everybody involved is invested to at least a substantial level. I mean, usually, you know, it can be like that, but as long as it's not like that, it's fine.
So doing the relationship thing running up to the wedding, you said that there could be several meetings. Do they tend to be all over Skype?
They can be. I like to have at least one meeting face to face before the ceremony. So even if we haven't had, even if the initial meeting is almost always Skype, unless somebody wants to come to visit me, which they're very welcome to do, but not many people want to come out to Estelmia. And then we have the in-depth meeting, and I like to have that meeting face to face. And then I'll create the ceremony, and then there'll be some email back and forth just until we get the ceremony really pinned down, so it's exactly what they want. And then it really helps, in my experience. I mean, I've been marrying people for 15 years. It really helps everybody to have a run through in the venue. It's not always possible. So as long as there's a run through and we can visualize where things are going to be, that well. But it really helps people's nerves, especially the couple, because part of the stress, because you know yourself, getting married is incredibly stressful for the couple, because it's such a high pressure event, or it can be. I mean, it may not have been in your experience, but it's such a high pressure event because it's this one day, this one moment in this one day where things have to be perfect or everything's going to be so, and people, and you know, sometimes it depends on the age of the couple, but quite often people are stressed out about their family and different bits of their family seeing each other who don't get on because everybody's invited, and so it kind of builds up a lot of stress. So anything I can do to take that stress away is helpful. And a run through, like a dress rehearsal, really helps, because when people know where they're going to walk, where they're going to stand, who's going to do what, in what order, and it just helps to calm that bit of nerves. So they've got a little more headspace to deal with all the other.
If someone was watching this and they wanted to use you for their wedding day, you know, how many hours or weekends would you recommend that they're going to spend working on the relationship prior to the actual wedding?
I think it depends on the couple. I mean, if they're already the kind of couple who the working on their relationship's important to them, they're already doing it.
So that would shorten the number of sessions you would do if they were kind of already in that.
No, I mean, the thing that determines the number of sessions, I normally I'll just spend the 1.5 hours speaking, going over the questions, and then, but if people want more work than that, then that's kind of an additional, so that hour and a half, 2 hours is included in the fee for the wedding. If people want an additional session or sessions or a day or a weekend to really focus in, then that's an additional
like an
service.
option.
That's kind of an add-on. And actually, people people have that without the wedding ceremony as well.
I was going to ask you that. You know, potentially there's a couple that's already married or not planning to get married for whatever reason, but they feel that they want to, I don't know, delve a little deeper or increase the quality or something. You would also do that as well.
Yeah, and I like to be quite clear that what I do isn't relationship counselling. So if people are having difficulties in their relationship, I'm not the right person for them to come to.
Right.
So if people are having difficulties in their relationship, I would recommend that they go to Relationship Scotland or someone who in private practice but who specialises in relationship issues. What I'm more about is helping people to dig into how their relationship can be absolutely amazing. You know, how it can, I know obviously that everybody has rocky bits, and I'm very happy to unpack those rocky bits with people. But if a relationship is having serious difficulties, then they need to go and see a relationship counsellor. What I'm about is kind of unpacking what their vision is for their relationship. So some of that will be looking at where the difficult areas are, but it's more present and future focused, rather than looking back at the roots of things. And sometimes when I've done that longer, deeper work with couples, sometimes they have decided actually, yes, one of us needs to be in counselling or therapy, or it would help us to go for a few sessions of relationship counselling in addition to this. It's kind of a different, it's about shaping, it's about looking at the boat, as it were, in its current form, and okay, is this fit for purpose?
Okay.
And getting to a joint vision of what the purpose of the marriage is, and therefore what the shape of it needs to be. So it's and there is some individual work in there as well, because a relationship is made up of, you know, it's not a blob. It's not a blob of one thing. It's two people, and inevitably people have different ideas of where they're going. But it's not so much about compromise. It's quite difficult to explain in words how the process works. But we start by looking at how they got together and what was exciting about, you know, look at like what was it that drew them together in the first place, and then at what they really appreciate about each other. So it's kind of focusing more on the building up the positives rather than trying to get rid of the negatives, if that makes sense. Because it
does. No, that was totally what I was thinking when you were talking there. It's kind of building on the good points, and you just said it there, taking it from the positives. Yeah, definitely. So you said earlier that it's quite difficult to explain succinctly what you do. And I'm now starting to get an understanding as to why that is quite difficult, because I've been in a similar situation where I knew I had something to offer, but it just didn't fit in that 30-second pitch so that you could say to someone, this is what I do. So what have you been doing on the marketing side of things to easily let people know that this is a service that I've got? It's not for everybody, but it really is for some people, but it's a little bit different, and I need half an hour of your time to explain that. So how on a marketing side, how do you get that over?
Well, on my website, I have my website and I have my web copy, which some of it's quite, so what I also have is on the first page, I have the briefest explanation I've been able to come up with that isn't just an elevator pitch. but then I have a sign up so people can sign up to an email list. And actually what they're signing up for is a booklet, which is called Creating Your Container Creating Your Relationship as a Container of Love. And that's actually a workbook, which includes some of the questions that I ask couples, with an introduction for how to use it, and then the questions with spaces for people to fill in their answers, and then recommendations depending on what they discovered through asking those questions.
So what's your website again?
It's www.elinorpredota.com.
Okay, we will stick that on the Google Plus and the Facebook page. Just because I'm sure some people would actually love to sign up and get your workbook. Do you find that approach works for you? Sort of that online long-term relationship where you are talking to people about the workbook is an example of the types of things that you would do hands-on. Are you finding that's the best?
Yeah, I mean, I also get referrals through the Pagan Federation, because people contact the Pagan Federation direct because they want a pagan wedding, and also sometimes they'll contact other celebrants within the Pagan Federation network who aren't in this area. So sometimes I'll get referrals that way, but quite often now what I'm finding is that I'm getting word of mouth referrals, or people who've been to a wedding that I've conducted then decide they want me to conduct their wedding, or they heard about it from their friends who I married, or they've been following me on Facebook for a long time and they've decided that when they get married they want me to conduct their ceremony.
Yeah. So that online long-term relationship does eventually work out for the type of business that you do then. Is there anything in the marketing that you've tried and you've gone, oh no, I'm not doing that again, that's just bombed?
Advertising basically, because in both in print magazines and online, because an advert is such a small piece of real estate, whether it's on paper or whether it's online, I can't actually express, I can't get people's interest without giving them the wrong impression. And if I've given them the impression, then it's a waste of money. And if I can't get their interest, it's a waste of money. So it's just a waste of money.
Yeah. It's expensive, isn't it? Traditional print, traditional adverts is really expensive. We've been looking at doing traditional advertising for a few months. I keep thinking I should really try it. I should really try it. Fortunately, at the moment we've been so busy, I haven't had to do traditional advertising. But I think, do you know what? The price seems just so prohibitive. When a bit like you tend to offer more of a personal service. It's the referrals, it's the people, it's the recommendations that is, networking, because I met you through networking. It was a women's networking.
Women in business.
Women in business. That was it. Women in business. And those types of events, I've met so many interesting people, not just clients, but loads of interesting people like yourself. And we've hit it off, and we've done little spin-off projects together. It's been absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it's a bit like yourself, the traditional advertising. I don't quite know how to get that personal message over, other than, hey, we're here. And it just doesn't make the same, you know. It's just and everyone that we going, so
the only advertising that I am considering, which I will have to save up for probably a couple of years, is Offbeat Bride, because that is where my ideal clients live.
Target market.
Offbeatbride.com. It's an amazing website. It's full of all sorts.
Alternative weddings and alternative everything to do with weddings, isn't it?
We also have Offbeat. I'm not sure if it's Offbeat Home or Offbeat Family, but anyway, it's people who like doing their own thing, people who are in same-sex relationships, people who are in polyamorous relationships, people who are really into their fandom, people who are rockabillys. You know, it's anybody who's got a really strong personality and who wants that to be part of their wedding ceremony. That's
I mean, even us. I mean, we had a fairly traditional wedding. It was in our back garden, but it was a fairly traditional. But I had quite strong views of what I wanted and what I didn't want. Even to the point of I was actually turned away by two different photographers because I wanted like a reportage type.
And I only did the,
you know, because I didn't want everyone to sit there like. And they actually said, no, we don't do that for weddings. But that's what I want. That's what I want to pay. No, we don't do that for weddings. And we went to
in a way about
as well. Sorry?
In a way, that's good, because at least they see what their offer is and they're not trying to say, oh, yes, we can do it, and then actually turn out to be really crap at it.
Well, that is true. That is true. We went to a couple of wedding venues, and my stepdaughter, Jane Seawright, big shout out to Jane. She has a very, very successful business up in Edinburgh doing mainly wedding entertainment. So they do the full Kaylee and as well as the disco as well. She's a professional singer, and the band is Cora. If you I'm going to give her a thumbs up. The band is Cora, so if you're looking for wedding entertainment, you know, look up Cora, Corra. But we obviously wanted her band because she can do the whole. She can provide an 11-piece band if you want. You know, the brass, the strings, everything. If that's what you want. So we went to a couple of venues and said, okay, but we want Cora. No, you can't have Cora. You can't. You can only have this band. You know, and you're thinking, okay, she's an award-winning business up in Edinburgh, and you're saying no, we have to have this local band that we don't know. And in the end, we just went, you know what? I'm just having it in the back garden where we're in control. I mean, so I can totally get, even though it wasn't particularly untraditional, you know, it was quite a traditional wedding, really. All the paraphernalia kind of that kind of goes with a wedding was trying to force you down this one route, and me being a bit of a rebel, I was going, no.
And I've tried various times over the years to kind of get into the wedding market at Gretna, but it's very much set up. My experience of it is that it's very much set up for the mainstream. And if either as a business or as a couple, you are anything not mainstream, people just don't know how to deal with you. These are their suppliers, these are their venues, this is what they do. And they've got so much business, they don't actually have to do anything else. Which is fair enough, you know. If a formula works for you, it's you know, it's a lot less effort to stick to a formula, but it does mean that most of the weddings I do are in castles or in hotels that aren't so fixed in their ideas, so the couple can have exactly what they want, or they're in the couple's back garden, or you know, or I mean, I've done one by the side of a loch. It was actually raining sideways at the time, so we just did the legal bit and signed the marriage schedule in the car, and then the actual ceremony in the holiday cottage that they were staying.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, so sometimes you just have to put the wellies on and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do more weddings at the Lijkensteins in Estamir or the Handplasting Hof, but they're very much, yes, you're wearing wellies under your wedding dress.
Yeah, I've seen it. So if somebody was maybe wanting something a little bit different, you've got loads of contacts. Could they come to you and say, Elinor, where can I go?
I've got a certain number. I mean, because my weddings are kind of all over the place, and because the couples I marry are from all over the place, like I've married people from Australia and America, and most of my couples aren't local. They kind of they come in and they've got an idea of what they want, and they've actually done their research online beforehand. So they've selected everything from a distance online. So I know the people that I've done things with, but it's almost invariably somebody different at every single wedding, because the couples have and actually most wedding business now is done online. People will choose their venue online, they'll choose their celebrant online, they'll choose their entertainment online. They'll, 80, I think it's 80% of couples choose everything about their wedding through online searches. So I do have people that I recommend, but they're not necessarily going to be the right fit for every couple, because every couple is, because of the nature of the ceremonies I do, every couple is so individual that if I meet a couple and I think, oh, I think this entertainer would be a fantastic match for you, then I will make that referral. But it's amazing the diversity of entertainment, of venues, of everything that people have, and photographers, and because people have they know what they want. And even if they don't know what they want for the ceremony, which is my job, they kind of know what they want for the whole event, if that makes sense. So it's
totally.
There are some great websites for like not your average wedding though. There's Boho Weddings, which is a UK website and blog, bohoweddings.co.uk. There's Offbeat Bride, which is American but has quite a lot of UK suppliers on it. That's offbeatbride.com. Although they are horrifically expensive to advertise with, like gold.
They are.
I will go through my list. I don't have it on me, and I'll send it to you, and you can put the links into the notes.
Yeah, do that. That would be good, because somebody might just be looking for that little bit of inspiration. So, how did you get into this business? Because you used to be in quite a traditional career, didn't you?
Well, actually, I don't think I've ever been in a traditional career. I started out. Sorry? Yeah, more normal. Well, I'd always wanted to be a minister since I was about 12.
Really?
Yeah. And then when I left Christianity when I was 17, I didn't think that was going to be possible. And I kind of meandered around and wandered into various different spiritual directions.
Why did you want to be a minister? What was it when you were 12 years old? What was it that you thought, do you know what? Because it's an unusual choice for a 12-year-old.
I've always been kind of spiritually obsessed since I was about 4 years old. It was just anything to do with, at that age, it was God and visions and anything. Like, I was obsessed with Joan of Arc for a while, and like the hearing angels thing, all kinds of, I've just always been, that part of me's been turned way up.
Calling, sort of like a spiritual calling there.
Yeah. And then after a number of years of trying Buddhist meditation, Sufi meditation, fire ceremony based on Lakota Sioux practices, something vaguely Wiccan Druidish. Then I stumbled on A Course in Miracles, and that was through, because I trained as an aromatherapist and massage therapist while I was working in an organic vegetable delivery workers cooperative back in the mid-90s. And through the massage training, I heard about A Course in Miracles and went to a local study group. And through that, the woman whose house it was at was doing training as an interfaith minister in New York. She was traveling to New York every month to do this training. And through that, it was like a ding, 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 ding. It's like, oh, I can do this, and I don't have to be anything other than what I am. So then she started the training in the UK, and I took the training in interfaith ministry. And actually, a big part of my vision for what my ministry was going to be was marrying same-sex couples, because this was back in 1998 when I was ordained, and the idea of same-sex marriage wasn't even in any, in any legislator's eye anywhere. But it was really important to me that loving, committed relationships of all forms be celebrated and recognised. And then that turned out not to be what I did for years and years and years. So also through that training, I kind of rediscovered paganism. And then I went and worked in a Y2K IT project for a bank for a couple of years.
That's the bit I remember. Yeah, that is a traditional job.
Yeah. And then I moved to Scotland, and then I worked in community development for 8 years. And then I started doing a PhD, which I still haven't finished because I got ill. And, there's sort of all sorts of things happened. But actually marrying people was the one thing that has stayed consistent from about 2000. It's the one thing that doesn't matter whether I do marketing or not. Every year I get some people saying, we want you to marry us. So it was like, okay, then I'll do that.
It sounds a lot. I mean, I'm a little bit jealous being able to be with a couple on
frozen.
What is potentially if not the happiest, but a very happy day of their life, and being a part of that must be really, really nice. Hello? I think we have just lost Eleanor. She's frozen. We'll just hang around for a few more seconds to see if I'm going to give her a quick text message. The joys of a rural internet. Apologies, guys. Just going to text her. No, I think we might have lost Eleanor. That's a shame, because I was going to ask her what plans she had for her business over the coming months, but we're going to miss out on this. However, we're coming up to the hour. I'm really sorry that we didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Eleanor, but we'll I'm sure we'll meet her again. I will stick up the links on Facebook and Google+, all the links that we talked about, all to do with weddings, including Eleanor's website, which is a lovely read, actually. It's a lot about improving the quality of your life. There's a lot about love. That's one of her main themes. And if I can get any more information out of Eleanor, that I can also post that up too. I'm getting a wee text message. Lost internet. Restarted router. Back now. Oh, she's coming in. Hey, are you there? I was just filling in a bit there.
Hold up.
What I wanted to ask, because we are going to have to wrap up because we've nearly hit the hour, would you believe? I could probably, as you know, we can sit and chat for hours. We've done it several times. But I wanted to ask you, what plans have you got for your business over the next 3 to 6 months at the moment? Have you got anything in the pipeline that you're, little goals that you're working on, or what are you up to?
I've kind of stepped back a lot from the marketing because I've had quite a tumultuous summer. My health has continued to be not so good, and a lot of personal changes, not in my relationship, but within me, there's been a lot of changes. And so I feel like I'm, for me, business, like anything, is a cycle, and it's like a spiral, and you keep coming back to the same places. You develop things, you launch them, you promote them, you get business, and then you for me, then there's an underground bit where things are reforming and reformulating, but you're not quite sure what they're going to become. And I feel like I'm in that bit at the moment. So my next 3 to 6 months is really getting really curious and investigating what is the right next direction. Is it more of the wedding stuff, the relationship? Is it deeper into that, or is it finding, or is it focusing more on the spirituality and online classes or face-to-face classes? I mean, I've got some courses that I've started putting up. I've got because of the EU VAT regulations, I've not got them on my website. They're up at payhip.com/Elinor Predota. But little things like introductions to meditation and those kinds of things. So I'm kind of in a process of investigation, kind of reviewing what I've done over the past 7 years, kind of keeping and refining what's good and what works for me still, and kind of letting everything else go. So I'm kind of in a state of flux at present. So
anyway, isn't it? It's always a state of flux. It just depends on the level, doesn't it, really? So would you consider the online courses?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer face-to-face. I prefer face-to-face quite a lot. But I've developed quite a lot of courses, like I've got one on bringing your soul to work, which is basically about applying spiritual principles in your workplace without having to, because a lot of people think, oh, in order to be enlightened or conscious or whatever, you have to leave your 9 to 5 behind and go and live in an ashram and what have you, but actually you don't. It's far more useful to learn that stuff and embody it wherever you are and whatever you're doing. So I've got one on that I've developed, and I've got one on using the Christmas period for spiritual renewal. So whether you celebrate Christmas or Yule or what's the
Hanukkah or
yeah, I was thinking the Jerry Seinfeld one. I'll find a link and send you the video. It's really amusing. Okay. It's kind of a silly Christmas-esque festival for atheists, basically. Okay. But to actually turn that period into where it's dark, well, at least in the northern hemisphere where it's dark, into a kind of reflective reviewing the past year, looking at the coming year, but not in terms of these are things I must do, but more in terms of what in my deepest self is wanting to come forward next, and how might that look in terms of my relationships and my work and how, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I'm working on that kind of stuff, which actually is
to kind of get a bit of clarity, to be able to step back a bit and just
work.
It's important and not to do that, isn't it?
And not to try to put things into form and action too quickly, because there are times in a business where fear holds you back from putting things into action that you need to be doing now. But there's also times when you just need to sit back and not rest exactly, but let things simmer and not try to put things into form and action and offers too soon before they're ready. Yeah, it's kind of finding that. I find that balance is kind of hard. It's like it's difficult to know. Okay, yes, now it's time to go, or actually no, it's time to just sit here and let it mull around in the back of my head while I do some knitting. I think I'm in a mulling in the back of my head knitting phase at the moment.
You need that sometimes, though, and there's no point in going full steam ahead on something that you kind of know. Instinctively, you know you're going to regret this if you push it any further, and I think too many people kind of push that gut feeling or that instinct to one side instead of going, do you know what, this is not congruent to the way I want to do business or the way I want my business to go. And it's something that I've noticed with because I'm doing business coaching shortly, and I've been going through some of their material before turning up to their courses. It's one of their basic steps is to check where you want your business to go, how you want it to run, who you want to do that business with. And if an offer comes along that doesn't fit with all those basic elements of who you are, regardless of the money, they're kind of saying walk away, because it's gonna wreck something.
Absolutely. And probably what it will wreck is you and your health.
Yeah.
And actually that's really interesting, because one of the things I've realized this summer is that I don't do my best work alone. I do my best work in partnership with other people, in small groups and collectives. So but I live in the middle of nowhere in Estonia. So part of my mulling is how do I create this kind of collective joint thing, and face to face in that is quite important to me while I live out here in the middle of nowhere. So that's kind of the conundrum that I'm working my way through at the moment.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, because yeah, like I said, our internet isn't always the most stable out in the sticks in this area. So you're still working through that process of how being in an isolated area, or being able to work collaboratively with others.
Yes, yeah. And and I think it's going to involve some going out and having coffees. I think that's probably how it's going to work.
Yeah,
people samulating and sitting around a table and having a cup of coffee. Or people at 2 miles of pothole track to my place.
Well, we're gonna have to get another coffee sometime soon. It's been a few weeks since I've had a proper chat with you, but we are also going to have to wind up, because we have come up to the hour now. So I'm going to thank you very, very much for sharing some of your thoughts and feelings, as well as what you do for a career, which is absolutely fascinating. I can sit and listen to it for ages. I learned something too, the hand fasting thing. I love that idea. And I will catch up with you again soon. Thanks again, Helen. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.